golden, you're so golden. What you got, you're the golden child. I see forever between you and me, forever between us.
Welcome back to the Black in Real Life Podcast. It's your girl, Anuli, here with another episode. This episode is the last episode of Season 2. I hope you have enjoyed this season's focus on the city of Atlanta, Georgia. Producing this season has made me more confident about my decision to study Atlanta for my doctoral dissertation project. I really do believe that Atlanta is a great case study on the future of work. The episodes from this season have only just scratched the surface on what there is to learn about Atlanta, Georgia, and I hope to find new ways to take you along with me as I learn more. I will be moving to Atlanta later this year to start my fieldwork, and in preparation for that move, in addition to meeting my goal of transitioning to the next stage of my PhD career, I will be taking a hiatus from this podcast project. I already have ideas for Season 3 of this podcast, but I am not putting a timeline on production for it just yet. While I am away, please visit the Black in Real Life website to explore the multimedia extensions I created for Season 2, and also go back to Season 1. Black in Real Life is more than just a podcast project, and you'll be seeing more from this project over the years to come. Stay tuned. With that said, I am excited and honored to introduce the final guest of Season 2, digital media entrepreneur Marie Denee. Marie Denee is the creator of the digital plus-size media platform, the Curvy Fashionista. With over 11 years of prior retail and management experience and her MBA in marketing, Marie often is sought after for her industry knowledge, marketing expertise, and the ins and outs of plus-size fashion. As an industry veteran, she has received many honors, including the Root 100's list of the most influential African Americans, the Network Journal's Top 40 Under 40, and BET's #Future40 Award. Remember, at the end of each interview, I will come back to share a few key takeaways that stood out to me from our conversation. These takeaways will be supplemented with research from both academic and non-academic sources to add further context to subjects that were brought up in the interview portion. For every episode, I will include citations to the reference materials I mentioned, as well as some additional background reading for you on the Black in Real Life website. Visit www.blkirl.com to nerd out. Okay, now without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Marie Denee.
I have a dog.
Okay, so the dog might bark at some point?
I don't know, but you may hear a little pitter patter.
Okay, I mean, that's life. It happens. What I would really want to start with you in this conversation is just the fact that you've been in the blogger sphere, like related to content creation since 2008. And to me, that's why I wanted to talk to you, because I see you as like an OG blogger, like as an OG content creator. And I've also just over the years just seen how you've grown and expanded to become an entrepreneur. So that's something I really want to be the root of our conversation, is your experience as an entrepreneur. And one of the things I wanted to start off by asking you is, what are some of the observations that you've made about the evolution of content creation over the past decade, since 2008? How has it changed?
Oh my gosh, like if we want to talk about how content creation has changed, I mean, first of all, you no longer need the school of Google HTML, like Google, the school of Google coding, right? Like there are now so many tools that allow for a drag and drop, a, kind of start it and set it and forget it kind of thing in terms of your platform. Or you have all of these other types of platforms that people use to grow their brand that didn't exist at the beginning. I mean, and even to this day, we still get every couple of weeks, there's a new platform.
Yeah.
you're also seeing, oh gosh, like, it's sometimes I appreciate you asking this, because like I have to think back because it's like, damn, it's really been, 13 years in December.
Yeah.
And so, when I think about, there is more validity, there's more structure, there's more awareness, and then there's also, and it's also cool to watch each person's like kind of evolution of how they've grown, from where they've started to where they are today. I mean, some people have totally pivoted, like even for myself, I started off as a blogger and now we are a media platform.
Yeah.
Right. And like looking at, when I started, there was like Afrobella, Lovey, Claire from Fashion Bomb Daily. There was Nicole from Nicole Bitchy. Then you also had, I mean, there's so many, and these are just in the fashion, style, beauty kind of space. But like when you start looking at like the music, the, especially culturally, because even when we started, there were only a handful of Black bloggers. So we pretty much all like kind of knew each other or went to some of the same conferences and was like, hey girl, like pointing each other out, because, there weren't many of us at the beginning. And so now, now there are different types of niches within the niche. And, there are different types of content creators now, where you have your influencers, your video creators, your beauty influencer, there's so many different types.
Yeah.
So there's definitely been growth in those two ways. That's kind of what I see first. But I'm a nerd, so of course I'm going to see the business side of it.
We also have an MBA.
That part.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of those different types. Like, how do you feel about the word influencer? Because I know some people, they don't like to call themselves an influencer, even if they do influencing work.
Right. And so influence, for a while, like the term influencer was always used as a pejorative, right? Or it was like a minimizing title. And so now you find people who are trying to kind of reclaim it as the professional, the business owner, the brand owner. Like, I'm not a big fan of it. I don't call myself an influencer, but it's to each their own, and kind of how they feel comfortable in articulating like what they do.
How do you prefer to call yourself? I know you used the phrase media entrepreneur, but do you also feel any affinity for content creator? Like, what are some of the words you use to describe yourself?
So for me, I first, I define myself as a publisher. I am a business owner. I run and own a media platform. That is how I now differentiate, because for me, you don't see me on camera often. You don't see me taking pictures. I mean, shit, the last time that I posted something on Instagram, I feel like it was back in like February or something. Like, for me, like, I would rather post all the things about everybody else, right? Like, that is like where my comfort is. That's my jam. But that doesn't mean that my platform doesn't influence people. That is what media does.
I did notice that, like, when you go to the Curvy Fashionista, because I remember like when it was just more like pictures of you and your style, but over time, like, I don't really see as much your face on it, because you have your own separate site, and now you have a team. So how did you decide to go from a me to a we? Like, when did you decide to like expand in that way?
Well, I've long known like where the goal for TCF was to sit right next to Who What Wear, Refining 29, Bustle, but just from a plus perspective, right? Like, I knew that's where I wanted to go, but I also knew that it couldn't just be me. Like, I sometimes us Black women, we can think ourselves superwomen, but we realize, Beyonce is who she is because of who her team that she has behind her.
That part.
And so I didn't really know how to get from blog to digital media platform. Like, I didn't know how to make that transition. And so I had to start doing a lot of research. Like, what does masthead look like for, what does the masthead look like for a media platform? What roles do I need to have that are key?
Yeah.
Like, that is how granular I had to think about things. And so at the beginning of 2019, like, is when we started the pivoting, right? Like, so we had to identify like our strengths, like, where do we influence? How do we influence? So that this way I could then better kind of speak to our unique selling proposition, what sets us apart, and then start building a team in the areas that would need to deliver on those things. So I had already had a production team when I used to have my expos. but I didn't have a team like that for TCF. I like was really hustling backward. And so I really sat and thought about and focused. And so during Rona, for me, it allowed for me to really outline, detail, break down, create the infrastructure of what is needed in order to succeed as a brand. And how do we bring in people who are dope in their own, their specialties or their gifts or whatever, to bring that to TCF to be able to help, impact and serve the plus community. I think that's kind of like where I started. And so now it's just kind of fine tuning what I need, what platforms I need, what processes I need to put in place. Girl, let me just tell you, having to create standard operating procedures is like a beast and a half. If you've never had any, so if y'all are listening out there and you like one day want to scale and grow, like start your standard operating procedures now, like, because that's going to be a pain in the ass to like flush out like years later. I really started in the last couple of years just like trying to ideate what that looks like, what roles are important, because I was like, damn, I did all of this.
Yes.
No wonder why I had no life.
Honestly, I mean, that's why I study content creators, right? Because I think people see what people do, they just see the Instagram picture and they're like, oh, that's cute. That's what you do for a living. But it's like, you're like you're hairstylist, clothing stylist, location scout, photographer sometimes. You're playing all of these roles as one person just to get this one thing up. And people don't see that kind of work. What advice would you give to somebody that kind of sees you from the outside and it's like, I want to do what she does?
Yeah, I would ask, like, what is your why? Because your why doesn't change as you grow. How you deliver your why will change.
Okay.
But your why will always stay the same. So my why is to provide information and resources so that plus size people can shop confidently, can shop, can feel good, right? It's all about the education and showing the resources. So no matter what I do, if it doesn't answer that why, it's not going to make sense. And then it's not authentic to me, right? Like that is what I love to do. I love to provide resource and serve and help. Those are the things that really drive me. And this is the vehicle that I'm doing it in. And so I think it's really important that regardless of whoever you're looking at, like, oh my God, they're like so amazing, I want to do what they're doing. Like, you need to ask yourself first, what is your why? And investigate that, because, if you're like, oh, if your why is only because someone else is doing it, you're not operating in your purpose. And that's going to be really important. And that's like what's really unique about this time and space, is because we are able to create and to walk and find our purpose outside of the traditional 9 to 5, no dig. But like, for those who have that ability to do that, where my mom and my uncle and my family was like, what are you doing? You have your MBA. Like, in their mind, I should be somebody's executive, right? I should be someone's retail executive, like in an office, like there are certain expectations that our generations before us like kind of tried to put on us. And so because of what happened in 2009, the economy shaking up when it did, like it had kind of birthed a lot of creatives, if you think about it.
Yeah, 100%. So what do you think you would attribute to your success and longevity in this game? Because a lot of people started and they just don't stick with it.
Don't give up. It's honestly, learning the art of the pivot and learning how to, stick to it has been really helpful to me. I have been audacious in just like the vision and my goals that I have for where I want to go with this. But I think what's really important at the bare minimum is sticking to it. They used to say it would take 10 years to become an overnight success. Like, what does that look like now? Like, I wonder how many years it takes now, because the space is crowded, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you have to put in that work. It's not something that you can just, oh, in a month, I'm going to get all these things. Like, it doesn't work that way.
I think some people approach it like that because just someone like me, like I've been watching influencers and bloggers and vloggers since like the jump. And you definitely see the difference between like, I would say like the OGs and then like this newer generation of people that are coming up. What would you say are some of the things that they should kind of look out for as they strive to like make content creation like a full-time career for themselves?
It's really important to understand like one of the things that I think I missed, which I shouldn't have, but I did anyways, is like understanding like some of the processes and procedures of running a business, owning a business. If you're trying to deal with these big money opportunities, you got to have like, business set up, right, to order to receive them checks, in order to be prepared or ready to deliver what a brand is asking on, to be able to ask for your worth or know your worth, to be able to have that vision, right? And I think sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to think big. So we'll be like, oh, I'll be happy with this little thing here. You're like, no, dude, you could have got 10x that just because this is the brand and this is the thing. And so I think what's really important is that folks realize that, there's a whole business, space in this, in the influencer world. So whether you're dealing with brands, agencies, retailers, or the individual designers, there's still, you still want to make sure, like, while it may be personal, at the end of the day, it's still business.
Right. Yeah.
So learning that early on will save you a lot of irritation, heartache, in your feelingness. Like, it will save you a lot of that because it's still business.
Thinking of this work as a business, I think it's important. And I also wonder, just from your perspective, like a lot of people move to cities like New York or LA if they want to do this kind of work. But you're currently located in Atlanta, which is like one of the reasons I reached out to you. Can you share a little bit of why you moved to Atlanta and how being in Atlanta has impacted your business?
Yeah. So honestly, I moved here. I literally took a leap of faith, prayed about it. Atlanta was placed on my heart. I was like, Mom, I'm moving to Atlanta. She was like, bye.
Ooh, where's
And
Mama
so,
from? Where are you from originally, actually?
all my family's in California, but my mother was in the military for 23 years. So we just grew up bouncing all over the place. So me saying, oh, I'm moving to Georgia is like, oh, okay. There's no like, oh my God, baby, don't leave me. Like, I mean, that's probably more like with my sister, like, because my sister also has the kids. So my mom would be like, oh my God, my grandbabies. But when I moved out here, it allowed for me, like, it's like kind of twofold, because I really had to learn who I am as a business person, who I am as a brand, owner, who am I as just Marie. I had to learn that and be away kind of from everyone, right? Even though we have, social media and video and all that fun stuff to stay connected, but I had to really go through that kind of, work. Like I started therapy when I was here. I lost friendships. I've gained friendships. I've really had to like learn who is Marie and what does Marie want, right? And then from a business perspective, it allowed for me to do events, fine tune them, learn the best ways that I can make the most of community offline. And it really showed me, like, I learned about what it means to lead a team, what things to do, not to do. I was able to really learn what kind of leader I did and didn't want to be. It really has, like, Georgia's like being here, whether I'm still a homebody, but being here allowed for me to really focus on and figure out like what that looked like, both personally and business wise.
And I wonder, because you just said you're a homebody, have you engaged with the city in your time here? First of all, how long have you been here? And have you engaged with the city in your time here that you feel like, oh, I understand what it means to like be from Atlanta or live in Atlanta?
Well, I could never understand what it means to be from here because I'm a Cali girl. And before I was a Cali girl, I grew up in Hawaii and then in Japan. So I'm a military brat. So that has like a whole different kind of thing. So when I connect with other military brats, we're like, hey girl, like we get each other because like certain nuances kind of form. Every 4 years, you're starting new friendships, new everything, right? So you kind of had to learn how to adapt, and connecting is sometimes challenging because like by the time you connect, you're like uprooted, and this was pre-social media. So you had pen pals, but then by the time they got their letter, they may have moved. Right. Yeah. So, but outside of that, like I've been here 7 years and I love seeing us. Like that was definitely like a culture. I don't want to say shock, but like a culture experience, especially when for me, I used to live in Oakland. And so that was probably the closest to, in terms of being around us in a variety of different ways. Owner, business person, like manager, like seeing all these people in leadership roles and spaces, going to, oh gosh, there's a co-working spot, the gathering spot, the Black owned co-working area. I became a member. For me, it was like really important to allow myself to be surrounded by other business owners, right, that weren't necessarily fashion based or plus based, but I could understand and get to meet and ask questions and make additional like connections and to expand, right, and have that resource. For me, like, that's what really kind of blew my mind about this space, is like really seeing like people moving, whether it be fashion, business, politics, music, seeing all those different things, like, was very similar what I experienced in California. But here it's all of us doing it. And I'm like, oh, hey. And then you have like your festivals. Those are cool, except all the bugs. But I think, you go and you get lit enough, like, it doesn't bother you.
The bug bites are fine.
Right. You're like, you're like, what bug bites? Like, what? And I think it's funny because like everyone walks around with bug spray. So like, it's like a thing. So, but, I really dig, like, this showed me how I could move, how I could build my brand. And it showed me, especially like my audience is plus, we're down south. Yeah. I mean, like it allowed for me to really nurture the audience and the crowd to see like how I could better serve them. I've learned so much.
You mentioned like us in Oakland and us in Atlanta. I'm now curious, how do you distinguish the two? What are some like unique distinctions between the Black community in Oakland versus Atlanta's Black community?
Well, what I experienced in Oakland is that I saw more like, I was surrounded by activism. And then I was also surrounded by, I used to do like the first Fridays in Oakland. And so it was a little fancy, a little networking, hobnobbing. Like that was kind of, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is great. Just to see like all these different, walks of life, but everyone was Black. I worked in the city in San Francisco, but I lived in Oakland. So it was like a night and day kind of experience, but it was just like so warm and like, yes, I see you. I felt desired as a Black woman. I felt like it wasn't hard to find dates. It wasn't hard to navigate and to go to a coffee shop and catch some spoken word or go, there was always different things to do, especially because I lived around Lake Merritt. And so here, there's always stuff to do, always, whether it be fashion, music, hair, beauty, influencer stuff, premiere screenings, or business networking opportunities. Like and then even in the tech scene here, it's like growing. So it's just like it was, I think, very similar, but like Atlanta is probably like Oakland on steroids.
And how do you think it's changed, like Atlanta, in the 7 years that you've been here? Have you seen any like significant changes in the city?
I mean, I'm not even gonna front. For me, my biggest concern is like how like we've been reacting to or responding with Rona and the pandemic. That is probably has me more hypersensitive and aware. Like I'm not going nowhere. Like I don't trust it. Like I'll go to the grocery store and the gas station. That's it.
I've been in Atlanta for a little bit now, just doing this podcast and just kind of making my own observations. I rarely see masks. And coming from New York, where like most people are like masked up to go indoors, and I'll go into the grocery store, like you said, and I'll be like the only one with the mask. It has been quite jarring. What do you think it is? Because I don't feel like Atlanta ever like
it's leadership,
shut down.
Girl. It's leadership, right? It's really reflective of leadership. And like for me, I'm in North Decatur, so I'm right on the border of Atlanta. And so everyone's in, like, I don't want to say everyone, there's still like a 70-30, like in my like close vicinity, I'm over here like, why you ain't got no mask on? Like that's like my kind of thought process. So I just don't go nowhere.
Has COVID impacted your business in a significant way?
Oh, it did. Hella. Like, for me, it definitely dried up a lot of opportunities, like in things that we were planning an event that was supposed to happen this year. We were planning to do a couple of different things. So we had to scrap those. We had to look at, we actually ended up, because of Rona, launching our Cultivate Award. So how can we help indie designers? I was looking at all these like brands that were launching grant programs, and there was no one who is doing one for the plus space, for the small business indie designers in our space. And so I wanted to do something that could put a little bit of dollars into their pocket and give them resources and opportunities. So I started the Cultivate Award specifically for that. So it's been like really cool to see, like, to be able to give back to a brand. To indie designers. And then it's like kind of kicked off, like, how else can I help? What other places can I really kind of create kind of an operating kind of process that we can support or create programming to support other groups within the plus space.
So it looks like you've been able to pivot in a way, or you've had to, just to survive.
Yes, ma'am.
I also wonder if you got a lot more media attention last year, once it was not only like the COVID pandemic, but also like the social uprising with Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. So for us, like, I did end up start to do consulting work with an influencer agency to show, tell, speak, and I've been a long time friend of the brand, so I understood the space, being an OG, like all that kind of thing. So I was able to help them. I was able to have so that helped me surprisingly from a revenue perspective, so that I was able to have like these, this revenue come in a way that I hadn't anticipated. But it's like, oh my gosh, I could pay my rent. Oh my gosh, I could pay these bills. But also I've done some virtual panels, I think just like 2. I didn't do a whole lot, but for me, I was like, I did start a Facebook live series talking with indie designers and indie indie businesses in the plus space, because I wanted them to share like how we could still support them.
Yeah.
Because that was important. Like, how have you pivoted? What are you doing? How can we support you? Like, and so we did that Speaking of Curves series.
I want to end with a question I'm asking everybody, and I'm also especially interested in your answer to this as a transplant to Atlanta. That's the theme for this season. Who, what, or where represents Black Atlanta to you?
Ooh, who, what, or where? First, the music. That's first. You have you have a certain sound, you have quite a few different people who are based here. So that's always the music. I think watching like what is happening with movie production. Mm-hmm. So, there's all these movies, and who, what, where like defines for me, because I'm a business nerd. I'm going to go with the Gathering spot, because it's the intersection of music, entertainment, business, and tech. It's really has been like kind of a flow and an ebb of flow of resource people, relationships, events, entertainment that have kind of started from there, that's kind of what drew me there, to kind of be plugged into all the things that's happening, has been the Gathering spot.
One of the reasons I wanted to talk to Marie is because I consider her to be one of the OG or original content creators. And from following her career over the years, I have seen how she has been able to expand something that may have started out as a hobby into a business. One aspect of the way that influencers and content creators are reported on and studied about that I feel gets diminished is the fact that these creators are entrepreneurs. They are running businesses. Despite the fact that there is no specific listing for influencer or content creator in any of the national job reports, these workers likely file taxes the same way freelancers, contract workers, and entrepreneurs do. Furthermore, news reports about the rise of entrepreneurship like the ones I'm about to share with you now, may not specifically call out influencers and content creators, but it is certainly likely that these numbers include people who identify themselves as influencers and content creators. When we are considering the rise of entrepreneurship in the United States, in Georgia, and in Atlanta, we are also talking about the rise of the creator economy. A report from Harvard Business Review released in May 2021 found that 17% of Black women are in the process of starting or running new businesses. Although I personally dislike comparisons where white people are set as the default or standard, I have to note that Harvard Business Review labels this statement as quote-unquote astounding because by comparison, only 10% of white women and 15% of white men are in the process of starting or running a new business. Unfortunately, the racial and gender disparities that probably played a role in Black women pursuing entrepreneurship in the first place are not evaded when Black women start their own businesses. According to the report and many others, access to capital is one reason why Black women entrepreneurs may struggle to sustain their businesses when started. One of the most notable parts of the study was the analysis of the kinds of businesses that Black women entrepreneurs tend to start the most. 61% of Black women entrepreneurs start businesses in either retail, wholesale, or the health, education, government, or social services sectors. So, for example, Instagram boutiques and health spas would fit in here, even your neighbor's CMOS business. Harvard Business Review notes that if these businesses are small, informal businesses with low margins in a crowded, competitive context, then they can be more difficult to sustain over the long term. Metro Atlanta has seen an increase in Black entrepreneurship over the past 2 years as well. According to census data, there was a 40% increase in Black-owned businesses between February 2020 and August 2021. The top 5 types of new Black-owned businesses in Metro Atlanta are listed as healthcare and social assistance, accommodation and food service, professional, scientific, and technical services, so things like tax and accounting services, professional services, so things like laundry and cosmetics, and of course, retail and trade. I'm not the only one that is recognizing the turning tides of entrepreneurship in Atlanta. Atlanta Magazine's January 2022 issue featured a cover story about the ways that the landscape of entrepreneurship and the face of Atlanta's entrepreneurs are changing. As the subtitle for the cover story writes, they're not just tech founders and CEOs. Atlantans are launching businesses as ceramicists, farmers, influencers, and more. I'll end with another line from the article. From the bustling 1920s Sweet Auburn business district to 1990s hit-making labels like LaFace and So Def, from stalwarts like H.J. Russell & Co., Bronner Brothers, and Citizens Trust Bank to Calendly and the city's burgeoning tech scene, Atlanta wouldn't be what it is today without Black entrepreneurs. You have just listened to a production of the Black in Real Life Podcast. The Black in Real Life Podcast is developed, produced, edited, and hosted by Anuli Akanebu. The music was graciously provided by Garth, whose single Wild can be streamed anywhere you can find music. The intro music for this season includes an instrumental remix of Welcome to Atlanta by Jermaine Dupri featuring Ludacris. Thank you for listening, and remember, the people you follow online are also Black in real life.